are my two options I thought of so far, both deriving from Latin. So over the course of the next few months, I'm planning to get involved with people who like fashion, people who like designing, people who are creative, and collaboratively, me and them, I want to produce this magazine, this editorial gallery style magazine, which will be influenced by all of these wonderful people. As you can see in the top right, the main unique selling point is that I want to use color. That's my main thing, is I want color to be the main and primary aspect of this magazine, which I'll dive into later. Of course, I've already mentioned fashion and unity. In this magazine, it's not race specific, it's not color specific. I want everyone to be involved, and it's not a thing of what you look like or who you are. I'm going to handpick the models and designers, and I want majority of the clothes to either be DIY, handmade, or thrifted. And all three of my ideas were magazine based, which is different to all of my past projects, which have all been video and moving image. Moving on, my target audience. The age range I've chosen is 16 to 25. This is because the majority of the people that I will be recruiting to help me with this project will fit in that. Gender, I don't have a specific intended, gender appeal, but everyone is welcome. I've also mentioned that because it's a magazine and fashion tends to be a conventionally feminine thing, that could also be the case, but I'm not judging. When it comes to psychographics, the interests, I want everyone who's involved to be a visual creative, so fine art, digital art, graphic design, mixed media, etc. And everyone that I want to involve in this, I want them to stay grounded in, I want them to be in school still, I want them to still be learning, so I'm not catered to professionals, and I'm not catered to people that are, just starting out in this industry, so I'm, mid-range, As you see some great people over here. Moving on. Moving on to my style and visuals. So, this magazine, the majority of the color palette is going to be monochrome, which if you guys don't know, it's just black and white. And I want there to be colored accents, so this could be typography, this could be logos, this could be advertisements, any little details I want them to be colored. The rest of it is going to remain, sort of pastel, pretty, saturated or desaturated. Color palette. I go into more detail with this, so I want the exterior to be more colorless, and then I want the interior to feature more color. So it's like you're opening, you're entering this spectrum of color, and obviously the people inside, it's going to be a very wide variety. Some key points is that I want it to be a mixture of minimalism and maximalism. And what I mean by this is that the overall design and layout is going to maintain quite, minimalist, but I want the outfits and the people and, the photos to be quite maximalist based, right? I want it to be layered, I want it to be, different and unique. I've said before, the color spectrum, I want to include every color you can think of. And I like contrasting elements, as you can see here. There's some examples of contrasting color and design. And I want it to be overall aesthetically pleasing. This is just a little mood board I created of some examples that I like and that I use as inspiration to incorporate into my piece. The format and structure. So one thing I'd like to add is that because I'll be working with other individuals, I can take the time working with them to not only interview them, but I can also make custom advertisements which could help them on one case. So I can use their pieces to create an advertisement surrounding it, or I can make entirely new custom advertisements in general, which I want to do to boost the appeal and the realism of this magazine. Everything's going to be handmade, and I was thinking of having an advert anywhere from 2 to 4 times throughout the entirety of the magazine. If you move on to the left, this is a little mock-up I've made made of what it could look like. This is basically simulating what the different sections of the magazine will be like. Obviously each a different colour. And you can see to the right of it, I want every section following the Latin name that I chose at the start. I want each section to be named to its Latin translated counterpart of the colour. As you can see, ceruleus, which is blue in Latin. And this could either be with the actual style that's featured within that section, or just the colour of everything in it. I will go into detail about contrasting and symbolism and how I like big and bold typography, because who doesn't? It's professional, it's nice, and I want more. My production plan. Here we are today, 23rd. And from now onwards, I'm aiming to split each of these elements. So this would be one, this would be one. That's just two grouped together. I'm aiming to do at least one a week so that I have enough time by the end of it to make subtle changes if needed. And during my pre-production phase, this is when I'm going to be finding people. I might even start earlier as well, because we don't want to run into any faults during the process. The cameras I'll be using, the school here has Canon 4000Ds and Sony ZV-10s. And then at home, as a personal camera, I have a 2000D, which during my research and pre-production, I'll be doing skills builders to compare lenses and how they feel, and honestly which one I want to use for my project. Of course, I need a lighting rig and a tripod, and then people, and then outfits. And obviously, for softwares down here, I'll be using Lightroom for the majority of the color grading. I'll be using Photoshop for the masking and the more detailed editing. I'll be using Canva if needed to make mock-up designs of things that I'm willing to create, and then ReadyMac or another source for creating the actual magazine. My reasonings. So, over the past year or two, I got given a camera, and when I got given it, I carried it everywhere with me. I love taking photos, a bit too many. And also the fact that I feel like the fashion industry and magazines and that whole sector is way too overused, it's overdone. And I feel like so many people, they're getting bored. And I feel like it's such an adult specific thing. I feel like you don't really have kids that are interested in it. And I feel like because the age range and demographic that I'm aiming for, I feel like it's catered to a more, my generation. And and it's a passion project, and I just want to do it for the sake of, changing the course of what I've made. And I just want to go in a different direction for the sake of creativity. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Why have you chose to use like a Latin title and then all the
Personally, sorry for cutting off the way. Personally, I feel like it just sounds more professional. I think it not only sounds cool and interesting, but it's going to draw in a younger audience. But it's just, I don't know. I feel like it just sounds more professional, more serious, and people are going to go, wow, look at that. Especially in a big, nice font. Any more questions?
What type of typography would it be like bumping or like blocky?
I haven't thought about it in depth, but
Is that something you're going to research?
yes, it is. Thank you for reminding me. I like big fonts. I don't want it to be too stylized. When it's like either really thin and it's too wavy, or it's just big and blocky, and I don't want it to look too fictional.
Would it like be each person that you're photographed in each page, would it be like a similar font, I'm guessing? Or would it be like one that is personalized to them?
I have two ideas. So either I maintain certain fonts for certain sections. So like for for example, like all the articles could have the same,
Yeah.
font, all the same, all the interviews or adverts can have the same sort of fonts. Or I was thinking that, as I said before, each of the different sections, I'm either going to name them based on the colour that section is, and then have either styles that fit to the colour or to just the colour in general. So what I mean by that is like either one section is just going to have outfits that have are influenced by the certain colour, or that whole section is going to be a certain type of style in itself.
Yeah.
So depending on what I choose, then the typography might be different.
And how?
No, sorry. Did you want to finish?
And how many pictures do you plan to take?
Well, it's going to range from 30 to 40 pages, so a lot.
And sorry, guys. The weather.
Yeah.
Are you going to apply that? Because I feel like it rains a lot, so it's like you're taking pictures outside, or are you going to be like taking it inside? And if you want to take them outside, will you like apply the rain and like outline it in your design? Will you add like effects that have like droplets and stuff? Like, will you apply rain or just sunshine?
That is a very specific question. I'm not sure, because my original idea, I was thinking of taking most of the photos in a studio setting and then, editing them out with a green screen in the background so I can just mask it overlay on a graphic.
Yeah.
But that is an idea, and I'll keep that in mind. So, yes, who's next? You.
Forgive me if you've already said this, but
Yeah.
why with the images? Why do you want the images to be black and white and the text be in a different colour?
I don't want the. It's a good question. It's not that I want the text to be in colour and I want the photos to be in black and white. I would say more so the design of the magazine itself is going to be, the main source of colour usage, right? So what I said before is that I want the exterior to be pretty minimal. I'm not sure whether I want a picture on the front or if I just want it to be some sort of graphic design. But I might have some of the images, like the efforts, for example, they might be black and white images, but I think the majority will be coloured for the sake of it making sense to my coloured section.
Sorry, Rich, I know you've had your hand up for ages, but can I just want to ask a question following on from that? So the cover is the sale, right? That's the sales pitch. That's what's going to entice your audience in. So having it plain, how do you think that will target the demographic that you've picked?
That's the thing, is that the mock-up that I made before, it looked pretty plain, pretty simple, and I'm in the middle of deciding whether to go in the direction of like keeping it simple in the sense that like it can just be a graphic, or to include an image on the top and then have writing go within it, or a mixture. That's something I haven't landed on yet, but it's something I'm definitely going to think about.
I think I wouldn't be afraid to do a bit of kind of audience research on that. And like you've said, using Canva to do some mock-ups, do that and have an ask around, because I don't think, I mean, that's not a conventional fashion magazine, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that this whole magazine isn't, but it's still, you don't want it to be so sort of abstract that it gets lost and no one realises that it is in fact a fashion magazine.
Yeah.
So it's like finding that balance of kind of playing around with the format, but still making sure that your target audience goes and buys it. So I think maybe get some audience feedback on that. I don't think that'd be a bad thing.
What type of interview questions do you ask to keep it to its fashion centered?
With the interviews?
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, because I'm going to be working with different types of designers and people, and they're obviously gonna change from person to person. I was thinking of going more in depth about their process when it comes to fashion. So whether I'm interviewing someone who's modelling or someone who's actually created something in itself, I want to interview them about their processes of either their inspirations or how or why they came to make something, so that stays on topic with fashion and it doesn't go into another direction. Hope that answered your question. purely because it's catered to sort of my generation and obviously secondarily older generations. I would say because it's staying within the realm of thrift. Yeah, I would say it's mainly going to incorporate, and this is a very overused word in this generation, but I would say alternative, but in the sense that anything that isn't either overdone, was featured in sort of luxury magazines, not just street appeal. Something that's different, and that's why I want to get involved with designers, because then people can make their own things that have never been showed in the light, or their projects in itself, and they get the chance to display that in my magazine. Did that answer your question?